My most recent trophy draft was a deck with 18 plays by turn 2, had no monuments, no ramp, still played 3 colors, and only had 13 lands. In a format where people are playing 17 lands and multiple Dragonstorm globes and monuments, I bet some of you didn't know a 13 land deck was possible in this format. Today we're going to deep dive on what I believe to be the most reliable build of Boros in Tarkir Dragonstorm draft. First, I want to reveal how I theory crafted this deck. You may recall in our Cards to Avoid episode, we called out an anomaly in the data about Embermouth Sentinel. The distribution of the stats here, the different decks, makes a lot of sense to me. The Mardu deck, or really red-white decks, are the only deck that really cares about getting a creature onto the battlefield early, other than being for defensive, right? So this will get a creature onto the battlefield early and allow you to kind of fix yourself. It doesn't draw you it, which hurts a lot, but it does let you put maybe your single black source that you needed to get, for example, in red-white onto the top of your deck and let you draw that. But you need to want that land and want the fixing, basically, and add to the board. A 2-1 for 2 is not a great Magic card. Not even the versions that let you top a land, because it causes you to miss out on your next draw. Some in the community were optimistic about this card when you had dragons. A 2 for 1 that ramps you for 2 can be pretty good. The problem is that by the time you get a powerful dragon out, you usually don't need the fixing or ramp as badly, and there are plenty of ways to fix or ramp yourself earlier on, like the Dragonstorm Globe that Limited Resources spilled the beans on last week. And you can see that in the data. Embermouth Sentinel is a D to D+ in your Temur and Sultai multicolor good stuff decks. But the data is noticeably higher in white decks. Whenever the data shows you something going against the trend, you should ask why. So I thought it through and came to the following conclusion. A 2-1 for 2 that fixes you in a 3-color set, prevents flooding, and is in a deck that wants to go wide is actually probably a C to C+ level card when played correctly. Embermouth Sentinel guarantees you a land on the turns when you need one. As such, I'm comfortable cutting lands 1 for each Embermouth Sentinel I have in my white-red based Mardu or Jeskai aggro decks. This helps to ensure you're always drawing action and never flooding out. If I do get an Embermouth Sentinel when I no longer want lands, I just choose not to top a land. Am I happy with my Embermouth Sentinel as a vanilla 2-1 creature? Not particularly, but that's why I think you should do this strategy in the lowest to the ground go wide version of these decks. The kind that naturally want to play 16 or occasionally even 15 lands. These decks are built on 1 to 3 drops. You rarely want to play 4 to 5 drops because your entire goal is to double spell every turn after turn 3. You either want to play 2 creatures on turn 4, or better yet, kill one of their creatures with cheap removal, like an Exhale, and also add to your board on the same turn. The multicolor good stuff decks have a hard time consistently keeping up with the sheer amount of board presence you can generate. Now let's take a look at my trophy deck. I played 13 lands and 3 Embermouth Sentinels as a pseudo 16 land deck. I'd consider going down to 15 lands, but I did play 3 5-mana spells. In particular, the 4+ mana spells that I target are the ones that can be made cheaper, like Salt Road Pack Beast and Static Snare, or cards that can help you double spell to overwhelm your opponent with impact, like Narset's Rebuke and Iridescent Tiger, before they have the mana to turn the corner. I'm not looking to play any cards 6 mana or more unless they're bombs, because I don't intend to get to 6 lands on the battlefield. At 5 lands, I can double spell a 3-drop and a 2-drop on the same turn, and that's all I'm looking to do. At 5 lands, I can also activate Bearer of Glory's Pump effect, which is quite useful in this deck. I can virtually control how many lands I get with my Embermouth Sentinels. I still don't pick them highly because I don't have to. You often get them in the last few picks of each pack. Yes, there's a bit of diminishing returns for each additional copy you get, but the amount of diminished returns is small until you get to your 4th or even 5th copy. I'm happy to play 2 to 4 of them if I can pick up that many late. The other great thing about Embermouth Sentinel is that it fixes you. Despite playing such a low land count, you can splash and usually end up splashing black or blue. You'll see I splashed for Aggressive Negotiations, another great card at disrupting the multicolor good stuff decks before they can go off, and Reigning Victor, which is just a strong card when you can play it for 3 mana. You don't want too many tap lands in this deck. Your whole goal is to double spell as often as possible. I think you want 2 tap lands tops, but you also don't need more than 2 tap lands to splash. Each Embermouth Sentinel is a source of their splash colors. Here, I effectively have 6 sources of black. Not only that, Embermouth Sentinel is a colorless source of your primary colors. One of the primary benefits of this deck is its consistency, and in such decks, I like 9 sources of my primary colors, rather than the typical 8 sources you see recommended for the multicolor good stuff decks. But you can count Embermouth Sentinel towards your primary colors. I have 9 sources of both red and white. With a ton of Embermouth Sentinels, it might be tempting to put a lot of cards of your splash color in, or even consider double splashing, but I'm not looking to do that. The reason isn't because you won't have enough sources to do so, but because you're trying to double spell. Double spelling requires at least 2 sources of usually at least 1 primary color in play. I'm usually using Embermouth Sentinel to pick up a second land of my first primary color before picking up my splash color. So I'm not looking to go into a 4th color in this deck, although I wouldn't say I'd never do it. Now let's discuss the commons and uncommons you're looking for with this deck. We can summarize the pick order, at least once you know you're in this deck, looking at the top performing Boros cards at 1 to 3 converted mana cost. Let's pick out a few cards worth calling out, as they might be off the radar of some players. Fleeting Effigy is actually a good card in this deck. 1 mana for a 2/2 haste is fine, and the late pump is useful. I'm honestly not looking to play multiple copies, but the first is actively good. Channel Dragonfire is actively good in this deck as a way to hit face for 4 damage. Rebellious Strike is a good way to hit face for 3 damage and draw a card. I'm actually favoring it over Osseous Exhale in this deck. Furious Forebearer is fine, but I'm valuing Bearer of Glory over it. You don't want to spend mana drawing cards. You're spending mana impacting the board and playing as few lands as possible to ensure you can keep impacting the board. Playing so few lands, you need to fill in the slots with more playables, and this deck can do fine reaching into the D range. If you need to do that, you prefer to do it for 2 drops that'll help you double spell on turn 4 rather than on 3 drops. Yes, our Embermouth Sentinel is here at a D in Boros, but higher in Mardu and Jeskai, which is what you'll actually be playing as your splash is virtually free. I will say this deck is more suited for best of 1 than best of 3 on Arena, thanks to the hand smoother usually getting you at least 2 lands in your opener, which is enough lands to play Embermouth Sentinel. Now let's cover how you get into this deck with the draft that took me there. But before we do that, we need your help. We're less than 70 subscribers away from hitting our 1,000 subscriber goal. We strive to bring you unique content each week, and to ensure you keep seeing it, please hit the subscribe button down below. If you're already subscribed, thank you, and please encourage us to keep making more of this content by clicking the like button down below. And back to our draft. Pick 1, we choose Molten Exhale. Embermouth Sentinel is a card we aim to pick up late. Mardu Siegebreaker, while playable, is actually less powerful than Shocking Sharpshooter as a 2-drop with the ability to deal a lot of damage to the opponent. But we aren't forcing the Boros deck. Molten Exhale is good in both white aggro and multicolor good stuff, so we take that. Pick 2, there aren't a lot of great cards here. I consider Caustic Exhale as reasonable for both decks, but I don't love going into black, the weakest color, this early. Shock Brigade is an excellent 2-drop for the Boros aggro decks, so let's pick that up. Here it's either Kishla Trawlers or Molten Exhale. Both are similar in power, and Molten Exhale fits into more decks. Pick 4, Spectral Denial stands out as the most powerful card. Let's pivot immediately into blue-based control, likely leaning blue-red based. And never mind, Descent of the Storm stands out for Boros aggro. Let's lean towards that until a new signal tells us otherwise. Pick 6, Zergo's Vanguard, is great in Boros aggro and likely locks us into that deck, especially since we can see a Bonekarn Butcher and Fortress Kingguard here as well. Bonekarn Butcher isn't actually a great card in these decks, and I think it's both because the mana requirement and being a 4-drop, which again is something we'd like to avoid. But its presence here helps indicate that the Mardu deck may be open to the seat. Pick 7, nothing looks interesting and is a great time to pick up some fixing. Pick 8, I consider Desperate Measures and Focus the Mind. I don't love either of those cards for the Boros decks. I take Fixing in case we see a reason to splash blue later. Pick 9 is exactly where we want to be picking up Embermouth Sentinel. Pick 10, we get an easy Bearer of Glory. Pick 11, we take Dragonclaw Strike as the only card we might ever consider playing in the pack. Pick 12 doesn't matter, nor pick 13, nor 14, and on to pack 2. We open up a bomb in Sage of the Skies, and we take it. Pick 2, we get a Fleeting Effigy. Pick 3, a Shock Brigade. Pick 4, I'd love Assault Road Pack Beast, but not over Shocking Sharpshooter. Lightfoot Technique is filler that might make the cut. I like it a little better than Wild Ride. Pick 6, we get our second Embermouth Sentinel. Pick 7, we could pick up a third Embermouth Sentinel, but Coordinated Maneuver is a good removal spell in this deck, and it's what we take. Pick 8, happy to pick up a Mardu Devotee. Pick 9, we get our third Embermouth Sentinel. Pick 10, Narset's Rebuke is good to clear the way and double spell. Pick 11, we get our second tap land. Pick 12 is a worthy cost in case we decide we want to splash it as removal. This pick doesn't matter, nor this one, and on to pack 3. Channel Dragonfire is a decent pickup. Iridescent Tiger is okay. It's one of the lower playables in this deck, but we're unlikely to cut it given we need at least 27 playables with our 3 Embermouth Sentinels and low land count. We pick up Rebellious Strike over Auspicious Exhale like we explained earlier. I value Bearer of Glory over Embermouth Sentinel in this deck, especially when we already have 3 Sentinels. Pick 5, love getting a second Zergos Vanguard. Another Narset's Rebuke is decent. Pick 7, I like Reigning Victor. Pick 8, Rescue Leopard might make the cut. I like it a bit more than Poison Practitioner. Yes, the Practitioner should grow the turn after you play it, but it still won't have the power of the Leopard, and I like the Rummage more than the Scry. Pick 9 doesn't matter. Pick 10, our tapped lands are black, and Aggressive Negotiations is a powerful card. Let's splash it. Fire Inform is a playable card we might cut. We get a second Fleeting Effigy. I like the second copy quite a bit worse than the first copy, but happy playing a second when I can get it this late. Pick 13 doesn't matter. Pick 14 is not the worst last pick in the world. We can play it if we need to, but again, we'd rather limit how many black cards and 4-drops we have. And for convenience, here's our final deck again. I hope this inspires you to think a bit outside the box of what's possible in Tarkir Dragonstorm. Thanks again for watching. Please excuse my lack of voice. I came back from a bit of travel sick. Our subscriber growth and likes is what motivated me to make more content despite being sick. So I hope I've earned your like and subscribe, and see you in the next one.